I promise I'm straight. I know the costume says otherwise, especially the crown, but I can promise you this is for my daughter. She will love it, and I have no regrets because of that. Welcome in to the Called to Defend live stream. I am your host, Caleb, who is deeply regretting many life choices. First and foremost, agreeing to be a bumblebee. But we are here on this stream to talk about. I feel like I'm pretty loud. We are here on this stream to talk about Halloween. Good old All Hallows Eve. Some may even call it Samhain. So, as you can see, also, I am a spooky, scary skeleton who is literally always right. So, there's a growing conflict in the Christian community. For those wondering where, yep, I'm on one tonight. For those wondering where Josh is, he will be here shortly. Hopefully, he should be. If not, I'll beat him. Beat him. This is gonna be a long night for y'all. He should be on shortly. Sorry, I just saw myself in the camera, and that was a jarring moment. I am a 24-year-old man with a wife and daughter sitting in his living room wearing a bee costume. I made it, Mom. I did it. Are you proud of your son? Anyways, so there is a growing concern in the Christian community over the celebration of Halloween. And it arises from this age of Christian mythicism, which actually stretches back to the 19th century, is really where it starts to pick up steam. And then some may even attribute it further back during the 15th century to Hume. Not 15th, 16th century to Hume. It was Hume 1500s? I think late 15, early 1600s when Hume was around. David Hume, for those who don't know. Philosopher, very anti-Christian, was, unlike me, literally wrong about everything. But so there's this growing trend of Halloween bashing that comes from this, at the very least, Humean thought, if not exclusive to the 19th century mysticism that we see. Mythicism, excuse me, not mysticism, mythicism. And sorry, I'm just getting a kick out of myself. And it's this idea that all of Christianity is rooted in paganism, and all of the things that we enjoy in life and celebrate in life are also rooted in paganism, right? So everything's just paganism. Was talking with a friend recently about Halloween, and he called it Halloween, right? Which I kind of got a kick out of, not in the sense because, oh, he made a clever play on words. I was more like, you do realize what the hollow in Halloween is, right? Right? It's the word hollow, like hallowed be thy name, like holy be thy name, and he changed that word to hell, and it's like you didn't make the joke you think you made there, my friend. There is certainly something to be said about the modern state of Halloween and how it's been celebrated, and the celebration of death that comes with it, right? That aspect should be avoided. That aspect should be frowned upon because we do not have death as Christians, right? We do not glorify death. We celebrate life. We celebrate the life that God gives us because we serve a living God. but not all of Halloween is death. Right? This, as much as it makes me want to die, is not in itself death. We need to separate the pagan from the Christian. And what I mean by that is we have a wonderful opportunity to go and share the gospel of Christ with the world. This comes down to ultimately a Romans 4. Welcome, brother.
I was not ready for this. I was not ready for that.
So would you say it's unbelievable?
What? I wasn't ready for any of this.
Yeah, I did not tell Josh I was doing this. This was a decision of mine roughly 15 minutes ago.
Oh my goodness.
So I went and opened the Halloween costume that I'm going trick-or-treating in with my daughter.
Oh dear Lord.
On Friday. He is deer, in fact.
Oh dear.
Hi, Chaos.
I'm using one quick thing. I'm using a different microphone today. How's it coming through?
Honestly, worse than your normal one.
In what way?
A little fuzzier sounding.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay. Adjusting gain levels. Like I said, I haven't used this one in a hot minute. But let's just say, come here. Let's just say.
Oh, we're gonna see the puppo.
I had to. I'm on dog duty.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of dog duty, one of them just peed on the floor, so I'll be right back.
All right. Well. Okay. Thank you, Chaos. I'm glad the sound is good. Okay. All right. So, anyways, where was I? Oh, yes, talking about. I wanted to kind of talk through this scripturally, right? And so we will go through the origins of Halloween on this stream, but before I do that, I wanted to grant the paganism, right? Like, let's grant, for the sake of argument, the idea that Halloween begins as a pagan holiday. Right? It doesn't, but let's grant that it does. So, welcome back from the dog pee.
Thank you. Hopefully that is the only issue today.
Other than whatever this is.
Oh no, I see stuff in the chat. Oh no, the timing of that was funny. That sound is fine for me. Good. I'm glad. Oh no, I've seen that happen before. Wait, where's the other one? Bentley.
So, I wanted to look at a few passages in relation to paganism and in relation to... Yes, Josh is back. In relation to how we should handle this. All right, so the first thing I wanted to look at is Romans 14. Now, Romans 14, a little bit of context. This is Christian interaction with the world. It's Christian interaction with It's Christian interaction with paganism, right? In effect, which is exactly the issue that we are talking about here. Pardon me, that's the eggnog coming back. So I wanna focus here on Paul's work.
You got closer and I couldn't take it anymore.
I want to focus here on this portion, 13 to 18. Right. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of your brother or sister. I am convinced, being fully persuaded in the Lord Jesus, that nothing is unclean in itself. But if anyone regards something as unclean, for then that person it is unclean. If your brother or sister is distressed because of what you eat, you are no longer acting in love. Do not, by your eating, destroy someone else for whom Christ died. Therefore, do not let what you know is good be spoken of as evil. For the kingdom of God is not a matter of eating and drinking, but of righteousness, peace, and joy in the Spirit. Because anyone who serves Christ in this way is pleasing to God and receives human approval. So, what does that mean? In essence, it means that just because something has been declared unclean by pagan standards, that doesn't make it unclean. Right? To kind of use another example, which we'll probably do a video on at some point, Mike Winger had the example of a Christmas tree. Right? And there are people who will say, there are Christians who will say that we don't have a Christmas tree because it's pagan. And say, well, hang on. At what point does the tree become pagan? When it grows? Well, no, it's just a tree. Right? When you cut it down, no, it's still just a tree. When you bring it inside, still just a tree. Right? And they'll say, well, it's when you decorate it. Okay, but are you worshiping it? Are you worshiping it? I'm sorry, I have to take a phone call. Hang on.
Anyways, so for something else that Caleb is probably about to get to, there is a difference, by the way, of something that is pagan. Sorry, there is a difference between something that is a religious practice and something that other people do. So if pagans have a religious practice, that's one thing. But if they have something they just do, which we'll talk about when we get to the question of origins in Halloween, which, if I remember correctly, I mean, I'm just jumping in midstream, but I know Caleb had texted about this, that we're at the moment for the beginning. If, say, let's grant that there is paganism in origin. The question is it pagan in regards to its religious practice, or is it just pagan, it's something that just pagan people did? For instance, pagan people pray. Well, guess what? So do we. So just because they pray, does that mean we don't pray? That doesn't work out that way. But with Caleb's looking at the verse, things that are the idea that just because the tree has been used perhaps by people in a way that is pagan regarding the tree, one doesn't mean that the tree itself is the issue. It's what people are doing with it and their heart posture towards that thing.
Yeah.
And this is something that the men's group I was a part of on Sunday, we talked about. We got into this discussion about what just happened to my camera. We got into this discussion about, I am sorry, why is my camera being weird? Anyways, you can deal with Fuzzy Josh.
Issues tonight.
Just deal with Fuzzy Josh.
It's all right. We're not here for your looks anyways.
No. Just think of it as me being blurred out by the internet. So we were talking about how the question of origins for them wasn't the important part. They said the question is, what do people do today with Halloween? Because we can go back and forth in the origins, and when one person said one thing about origins, I then chimed in and said, no offense, that is historically incorrect. But they were talking about the question of, okay, well, what about modern day practices? And the question of like how our heart posture is towards things. Because one of my friends, a mutual friend for us, argued that you could argue even beyond just the scary, gory stuff, that Halloween itself has become very materialistic. So is our heart posture towards Halloween that of materialism, or is it part of like a cultural setting, or is it of religious settings? And even then, what are those religious settings? To catch you up, Caleb, I was basically stating that first. I was kind of reiterating your point, but also stating that there's a difference between something that is a pagan religious practice and something that pagans just happen to do. So
Right.
like pagan religious practice, as in like, did they do religious ceremonies and sacrifices for religious things on this day, or was it just a thing they did? And I said, there's the example of the fact that pagans pray. So if we're saying we can't associate in any way with pagans, then we can't pray, which is not how the Bible teaches that.
No,
Um,
no. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 would like to have a word with you.
yes, and so, anyways, I don't know if you want to finish your point while I reset my camera again.
Well, no, I mean that pretty much is generally the point. Um, sorry. Uh, the point generally was exactly the point you were making, right? Is that things are only pagan, really, when you make them pagan. Right? Things are only pagan. The only power that something has is the power that is given to it. Right. So if we, you good with the dogs?
I can't tell. She's looking at me like she wants to go pee, but she just did on the floor.
I mean, you can go let her out if you want.
Make your point. This is gonna be an interesting stream. Sorry, guys.
The stream that she made on the floor was more interesting. Dang, he wasn't even here for that. That was a good joke. Uh, so, yeah, the point overall is, as I was saying, the whatever power something has is just what's given to it. So, if I give something the power of being pagan, then I've surrendered that to it. Right? Scripture tells us that every day belongs to the Lord. There is not a day that is not his. So for people to surrender this day to evil and to the devil and to say, well, just because pagans did something on this day means that we can't do anything. Newsflash, pagans did something on every day. There was always a day where there was a sacrifice to a demon. A human sacrifice, usually a child. There is always a day in which, they cut themselves, or they practiced ritual rape, or they had an orgy, or whatever it is. There's always some day where there is a practice and a ritual. Especially since Mesopotamian cultures in particular, but even Celtic cultures, as we'll talk about, followed a lunar calendar. So then that day always changed. Whatever day they were celebrating, it always changed every year, right? It's not like Halloween. It's not like Samhain was specifically, October 31st, which, again, we'll get into. It actually wasn't. But it's not like it was always this day, and they every single day believed that, the spirits came through and they celebrated that. The day belongs to the Lord. Why are we surrendering to it? Why are we surrendering it to the pagans? Just because they proclaim something happened. Right? It's like the quote that I see go around, which I don't know if he actually said it, but again, let's grant for the sake of argument that he did. Anton LaVey, head
Fun
of the
fact,
Satanist Church.
no evidence he did.
Right, there's no evidence he did. But let's grant for the sake of argument that he did. There's a quote that's attributed to Anton LaVey, much like how many quotes are attributed to Winston Churchill without actual source or evidence. But there's a quote that, sorry, I was reading the message that popped up that told me that you're recording on a new track. And so I combined words there. Because you reset your camera. So there's a quote attributed to him, which is that he celebrates the more that Christians partake in Halloween. I think I'm paraphrasing there. But who cares? Firstly, he worships the devil. whom is the father of lies. So why are we listening to him at all? But more so, I don't know what that's in reference to, Chaos. More so, even if that's true, why would we give him the day? Why would we say, all right, well, clearly you win this one? No, we should work on taking it back. Right? We should take back Halloween. Just like all the people who try to claim that Christmas is pagan and Easter is pagan. I think I just gave Josh a mini stroke. Or at least PTSD non-flashback. But just like those people try to claim that, we shouldn't let them. We should push back. We should fight back and say, no, this is going to be a day to the Lord. Like every single day is a day to the Lord. We have an opportunity to impact culture so deeply and perfectly because everyone celebrates this. Everyone partakes in this. So let's go out there and spread the gospel. Right? Let's go out, maybe dressed as a bumblebee wearing a cross. Right? Let's show people, hey, I'm not afraid of your death. I'm not afraid of the gore and stuff that you're putting out there because I know my God is greater than that. And maybe if you're handing out candy, you hand out a candy bar with a Bible verse taped to the wrapper. They may throw it out, but they may not. They may read that and go, I wonder what that means. And they might look it up, and they might start looking more into it. Right? Let's say your church does a trunk or treat. Good, do that. Show your community that your church is willing to step up and be active. Right? Go out and just be a part of the community. Be willing to engage. Don't surrender the day to the pagans. Don't surrender the day to death. Go out and claim the day for the Lord of life.
Yeah. On top of that, there's another thing we talked about at the men's group. I want to mention this because I thought one of the good focuses about that meeting was that there was a time set aside to try and make a official statement for the church on its stance regarding Halloween. And so a lot of thoughts were passed around. And they asked a question, and they looked at me and said, Josh, what are your thoughts? And I said, I have a hard time doing hypotheticals because this can go so many different directions. Because they're saying, how would you talk to someone who has a different response to you about Halloween? I said, it's hard for me to do hypotheticals when I don't know specifics.
I can't wear glasses anymore.
Because on one hand, you might have someone who tells you that they don't want to do it because of modern customs. They may tell you that they've had bad experiences. They may tell you that they think it's pagan, or a variety of other things. I said it's hard for me to really put down how I would actually respond. Sorry, it was a bug. I'm gonna exercise my authority on you.
I'm working on it. Oh.
I'm
not.
But here's the thing.
Off, don't worry.
You just look like Charlie Brown.
I got a rock.
But like here's the things. If you have a problem with Halloween because of its modern usage of it, I mean, I understand that. I get that there's this weird issue where it has become hyper brutalized, hyper gory, hyper scary, and sexual? I don't get that one. In the mix of everything else. It's just a weird bundle of things. So if you don't want to participate in that, I mean, that's fine, but there's other things to participate in. So I mean, like, you can just do something at your church, like a trunk or treat. Or if you have a problem with that, then find something else to do with your friends that doesn't involve you hiding away. If you're like easily scared, I mean, there's a difference between like being timid and then like in terms of like you're just naturally timid of something, and then you're being fearful of something by choice. Like if you are fearful of, if you have like you're easily scared by things. So like one of our friends, we have a mutual, I can't remember, it was not mutual. One of my friends from college, he gets scared easily. So like Halloween wouldn't be like the best thing for him in terms of like going out because of all the scary stuff, because it just wouldn't be effective for him. but there's other ways you can participate in doing other things. But if you're like fear mongering and like holy cross saying all these things like, oh, you're all doing these evil things, and you're hiding away in your room. I got frustrated when I watched this stream by Isaiah Saldivar, where he's saying that Halloween is a holiday about fear. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. And effective, his argument was hide away because we should not be out there participating in a holiday of fear. And I was like, so your argument is that because we don't have a spirit of fear in us, that we should hide from the fear and let the fear reign? That didn't make sense to me. Or like, here's the other thing. Regardless of its origins, neo-paganism is trying to claim it for itself because we're letting them as Christians. It is very much like politics and schools and everything that's in our world. I first blame for why things are going like in a super problematic route is my first problem is going to be with the Christians who are letting it happen and not standing up for Christ, standing up for the truth of the gospel. Because again, here's the thing. There's not a single day the Lord takes off. And regardless, if Halloween was pagan in origin, or if there is wicked, evil things that are happening on Halloween, which there are people who are doing awful things. There are people who are doing like there's just awful things happening. But to act like that makes the Holy Spirit weaker because you're hiding it, I have a problem with that because how little is our God? He's the one who's conquered and destroyed other gods, who put them in their place. He's the one who showed up to like in contests with other gods, and they hide in fear because he's there. Elisha with the fire, where he's like, "Where's your God?" And he's just mocking all their gods because their gods can't do anything. If they're real, they're hiding because Yahweh's there. And he's like, "You really want to play a game with me right now?" It's the same thing as inspiring philosopher once said: if someone did pray over that candy, so what? It's not like everyone who's going to be doing that. And two, the Holy Spirit is not cowering in fear by the prayer of the candy.
Right, and it's just like the passage in 1 Corinthians which talks about meat sacrificed to idols.
Exactly.
What power does that have over you? None. You have the power of the Holy Spirit. There is nothing that anybody can pray over it or do to it outside of poisoning it that would have any power or impact on you.
But like if you have a conviction from the Lord, first off, it's your personal conviction. It's not an objective conviction for everyone. However, no one should push you against your conviction. But if you have a conviction that you shouldn't dress up or you don't want to do this or that, okay, then don't participate in those things. But find some other way to be productive for the gospel. Find something. I need to find something different to do on Friday because I was supposed to teach Friday night, and then our group decided to cancel, which is fine. But that was
could go trick or treating.
I could. I don't have any kids to trick or treat with, and I live in the middle of nowhere, so I gotta find another way to go do that. That does not look like a 24-year-old walking up to houses like a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon.
Well, so honestly, what you could do is like reverse trick or treat.
I could.
Hand out gospel tracts to people.
I could.
At their houses.
I could just see who's in town and be like, yo, who wants to go out with me and do some stuff? Obviously, you're not available. You're with your family being bugs.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be a bumblebee. The missus is going to be a butterfly, and my daughter's going to be a ladybug. So.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Again, if you have a conviction not to do, I'm not saying go against the conviction, but also have discernment about the conviction. God does not call us to cower in fear. But I'm also not going to go against the fact that if you are genuinely scared of something, like if you're easily scared by something, I'm not going to come against you and say you're a weaker person for it. Like that's just ridiculous right there. And again, if you have a conviction, like we have a friend at church who is convicted to not wear costumes, fine. You don't have to do it. There's nothing the Bible says you have to do that. That's not the thing. But like also, it doesn't mean we cower in fear. Why let the neo-pagans and the culture dictate something and then act like there's one day in the year where God is at rest, and not in the biblical sense, but like at rest and hiding because his power is too weak. I know people aren't saying that, but that's the argument. That's the logic of the arguments they're making. It's like there's one argument saying if you dress up, you are giving demons up your identity and you're trading for something else. Of which my argument is, do you watch TV? Do you watch musicals? Anything? Because if you do, guess what? You are endorsing people giving up their identities by your logic. So you're actually paying people to give into demons. So who's really the problem now? Them or you?
And the idea that we can give up the conforming of the image of the sun by dressing up, like my daughter dressing up as Ladybug, she's given up her identity to demons. Are ladybugs demons? Right.
That's no. Again, should you go
dressing up as a bumblebee? Huh?
No, I don't think people should go dress up maybe as like these gory, dark, and demonic things.
No.
I think we should go.
You should dress modestly. You should dress in a way that inherently can glorify God.
Right. We're not saying go dress as one if you want, but also like if your kid wants to be Optimus Prime, it's not that he's all of a sudden is a Cybertronian. He's make believe. It's kids engaging in their imagination.
This is just further evidence that Josh is a huge nerd, by the way.
Or I'm just a male who had a good raising, properly raised. Under.
Are you saying I wasn't properly raised because I don't know Transformers?
Perhaps.
Wow.
I mean, no, because let me think. You were more Pokemon, Star Wars, a little bit of DC, a little bit of Marvel. Not a lot, but a little bit.
A little bit.
It was primarily Pokemon and Star Wars for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like...
And dinosaurs.
That's true. I mean, for me, it was literally everything else. It was Transformers, Harry Potter, Batman, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Pokemon-ish, Bakugan.
Oh, that's a deep cut, man. That is a 2009 deep cut.
It's a great cut. It's a great time. Bakugan. Anyways.
Anyhoozle.
No, we like find some way to, if you're not going to participate in just regular trick or treat Halloween cultural customs, that's fine. But find something else. There are some people who say if you want to celebrate Reformation Day, you can go celebrate Reformation Day. If you want to celebrate the Catholic or more ancient Christian All Saints Day, celebrate All Saints Day. If you don't want to do...
See, I'm not the weird one.
So, okay, I guess your parents failed you.
Wow. Wow, dude. All right.
Just
chill.
Kidding. But if you don't want to do the American Halloween, fine, but do something else. Do your own Halloween party of sorts. Like invite your own friends over where you can have a Bible study. Or do a trick or treat. Find something to do instead of like if you want to stay home night and chill because you've had a long day. That's like your only day where you can take your rest before going back into ministry or something else the next day. I mean, I know like pastors, like you guys we work on Sundays, so like you need a day. So Friday might be your day to rest. Fine. I mean, that's not a problem. But also like, don't come down on people when they do. If you have a conviction about it, that's fine. Don't go against your convictions, but also don't force your convictions on other people as if it is the objective fact. The fact that we have a friend, a mutual friend, who, for him, drinking alcohol would be a sin because he has an addictive personality and it would be a struggle for him. He does not hold that on me as a person who's okay with drinking alcohol because I don't have that particular thorn. I have different thorns that he doesn't have. And so, but we don't hold that against each other, but we know not to put something like that in front of each other. So like if Caleb here, I mean, he just serves as a bumblebee, but if he had some conviction about Halloween, I'm not going to force certain things about those Halloween things onto him because he's been convicted by the Lord, or at least he thinks he is. And if he's not sure if he was, I'm not going to try to convince him otherwise unless his reasoning is like ridiculous. Like if someone was saying Halloween, they don't celebrate Halloween because it's pagan in origin, which I think if that's first off your reason for not doing Halloween, I have a few questions there.
There are issues in and of itself.
Yes, but I'm saying like if you had a problem like with today's customs, I'd be more like, I get it. I totally get it. You have a problem with today's cultural customs and you want to find another way to do it. Totally get it. If you're talking about something that's like historic, like something that's from a history or from a long time ago, or like whatever. My question would be like, if it wasn't, would you participate? And if the answer is still no, then my response would be, okay, then maybe that's not the reason you wouldn't do it. There might be other underlying factors there. And I'd be curious to know what those underlying factors. But if your answer was no, if it wasn't pagan, then I would celebrate it. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about the history, because maybe I can convince you otherwise.
But if you'll grant me a moment, excuse me. Let's say the response is no. If it weren't pagan, I would celebrate it.
Yeah.
Okay, why are its origins? Why do its origins prevent you from still dedicating it to God? Right. Because you can make that argument for just about every day.
Oh yeah, I mean,
That's
Ruslan.
what I was saying earlier. You know, every single day is something that somebody did something evil on.
Or as Ruslan pointed out, our days of the week have pagan ties,
Right.
but we're okay with each day of the week.
Thursday is Thor's day. Right. It's named after the pagan Norse god.
Not the Marvel.
Not the Marvel. No, it's named after the pagan Norse god. I don't hear anybody having a single problem with saying, "Oh, by the way, I have a doctor's appointment this Thursday." Right? They don't say this day of, I don't even know, like this day in between Wednesday, which you also wouldn't be able to say because that's Odin's day. So before Friday, which I don't actually know the etymology of Friday.
I don't remember.
But nobody has an issue with that. So why is it we are picking specific days with pagan origins to focus on, right? Is it only because there are aspects of it that you don't like? Okay, fine, don't do those aspects. Right? There's no reason, as we've been saying, for a faith-wide condemnation of something just because it has potentially bad origins. And we'll get into, again, it doesn't. But let's say that it did. Who cares? It has no power over us. It holds no power. Right? It's the same logic of if somebody, cooked a meal and sacrificed it to an idol. You could still eat that food because it has no power over you. And it would be an opportunity for you to say, I noticed you sacrificed this to an idol. May I tell you about the God who is not man-made? Right? Do a Paul in Acts 17. There is always an opportunity to share and spread the gospel. There is no reason that we should not go out and do it.
Yeah.
Even if the origins are pagan, which they aren't.
I the weird thing about modern Halloween is you have absurd gore, over the top scary, sexual. Why? Why?
Because I can tell you why. Because it's all about the objectification, because it's a culture of death. And that's actually something that I might talk about tomorrow. Might also just do a chill live stream, because this one's kind of not chill. We'll see how it plays out. But
don't go out and dress like them. You don't have that. You're not required to do that. Don't go out to the parties unless you have a.
I am not dressed as a sexy bumblebee.
Or if there's a party, especially if you know that you would be in a position where you're easily tempted and weak in that area. Like, I don't mean that in a derogatory, but I mean like in that you know that you would have a struggle there. Don't go. But if you have a strength there, the spirit can protect you because you have no problem with those kind of situations, then I mean, I probably would still advise maybe against it a little bit, because I'm not sure how wise it is to go there. Maybe have a couple people with you. But you could see it as an opportunity to go in there and share the gospel, depending on location and why you're going. Or trick or treat. There's nothing wrong with your kid dressing up and going to ask for candy. Okay, there isn't. If for some reason you're still convicted of that, I'm not going to come against you for it, but don't come against other people when they say, I take my kid to go knock on a door and ask for candy. I mean, dentists might have a problem with that.
That's right. We allow our children to take candy from strangers.
I mean, if you're concerned about gingivitis, sure.
The benefit, I will say, the benefit of having a very young child is her mother and I get to eat all of her Halloween candy,
At least the ones that she can't eat, or the ones you won't let her eat.
which is all of them. So
That's fair. Well, you're just letting her do your dirty work then. You're using child
exactly.
labor.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we get her like treats and stuff, but we are the real beneficiaries of Halloween.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we'll come back to some more application stuff towards the end. There's a video I didn't tell Kale about this that I found earlier about from Wise Disciple. That if I found the right spot, I'll confirm it whenever Caleb has any notes. I think there's a great deal of wisdom in like his thoughts and response that we can do for some rehashing or re-exploring some application. But Caleb, unless you have any other comments, we could move on because you talked about Halloween today a little bit. We talked about some application regarding today's Halloween customs. If you have anything else.
Yeah, no, I think it would probably be best to move sort of into the history of it now.
My dog is chasing his tail. All right. History. Talk about some history. I have an absurd amount of notes.
I figured you would, so I'm just going to go
a nerd.
ahead and do...
I mean, feel free to chime in. I mean, this is not going to be just a Josh presentation. I should have made a presentation, like so many people have been doing lately for live streams. I just didn't. And I feel like a boon? I'm going to say goon. A goober? I don't know what word I was going to say.
A boober?
A boober? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. All right. All right, first off, commonly stated, Halloween is pagan in origin, going back to Samhain. Not Samhain, not salmon, Samhain. And that Christians...
I'm sorry, just the way you said Sam Hain was like
Sam Hain.
The most backwater redneck hillbilly way I've ever heard someone say, hey, you know, we got out celebrating that Sam Hain. They're running all around getting them cookies.
Oh my gosh. Samhain, which was an actual festival. We can't actually pin down the exact date. It's sort of agreed upon to be October 31st, but we can't prove it. Some people argue November 1st. Some people argue something else. We can't really prove the exact dating.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, the historian Ronald Hutton has like the earliest source material as November 1st.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's where the earliest source material puts it.
And now, even then, some of the earliest source material is very late. that's like
right.
Early.
Yeah. I mean that came from, I think it was the 10th century. Right. So like
way after
best, you are getting like almost 13,000 years into Celtic lore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Samhain in general is believed to be this holiday celebrating death and making sacrifices to the dead and to the god of death named Samhain. Problem. I just found this today and I didn't put in my notes. So I think it was Dictionary of Irish Folklore, I think it was. I'll put it in the description later as another source. But they were even talking about how Samhain as a figure isn't the god of death in Irish religion. They have 4 of those. Samhain ain't one of them.
Why do you need 4 gods of death? How many people are dying in Ireland?
Well, because think about how many pagan religions there are. First of all, think about all the regions and all the pagan religions. First off, they're going to overlap. Holidays are going to overlap. Almost every day probably had a holiday at some point. There's no escaping. So the question is how ridiculous we're going to get about this. But even then, Samhain, first off, as Caleb noted, Ronald Hutton dates probably around November 1st based on early source material, but even he's arguing in other places that we can't really prove that it was firmly that. We do etymologically know is that it meant end of summer. So it was like the end of summer going into the winter. So, and for some reason to argue that it could be November is because of the name for November in the Celtic religion was Blood Monoth. Some would say, well, that's probably because they were sacrificing other animals, to gods. But also, when you're going into winter, it's a lot easier just to kill your animals and preserve the meat so you have food for the winter because you can't do farming. And Bede, who is an ancient saint historian, makes no mention of a very specific day in November in Bloodmanoth that was elevated above others for sacrifices and festivals. It's not mentioned in his works. He just says that this happened. When? No specific day that was focused on. And so scholars have a lot of other things to say about Samhain. First off, that Samhain wasn't a holiday dedicated to death. It was a festival celebrating and preparing for the end of summer going into winter. And so, again, this is the question of, was this a religious practice they did, or was this a thing that the Celtic people who happened to also be pagans did? They had festivals. Guess what? Jews also have festivals. Christians have festivals. So because they have a festival, we can't. Not only that, Halloween, which etymologically is hallow, which means holy. So stop acting like hallow is this deep, dark, scary thing. I mean, it's in the Lord's Prayer of the King James. Hallow is your name. Holy is your name. Holy Eve, or All Holy Eve, or All Hallows Eve, because it was the eve of what became All Saints' Day, of which had 3 different dates prior to the November 1st dating. It could have been in the eastern part, around the end of Pascha, which is Passover and Easter. If you want to know about that, check our Easter video, which we'll probably do a live stream about that, because I'm probably going to go on a rant if people say that Easter's pagan again. I know I will about Christmas. You can look forward to that. There's also, there were some regions, I believe, it's leaving me. I had this in my notes, or in a different set of notes earlier that I wrote down. I should have typed them. There was one that did it after Pentecost. I can't remember which region it was. And then the Romans did it May 31st. So there's 3 different dates that they would celebrate All Saints' Day. And we'll talk about how that, at least in the Roman area, how that got started. So to quote Nicholas Rogers, who wrote a great book that is misleading in title, where it talks about Halloween and it says from pagan origins to like American costume, I think it was. You can look up. It's like this black book with a jack-o'-lantern on the front. I'll put that in the description later as well. But he writes, Halloween is commonly thought to have pagan origins, even though its etymology is Christian. Halloween is quite literally the popular derivative of All Hallow Even, or the Eve of All Saints' Day, aka November 1st, after Pope Gregory made the change of calendars. Taking it together with All Souls' Day, which would be November 2nd, it is a time assigned in the Christian calendar for honoring the saints and the newly departed. In past centuries, it was also the occasion for praying for souls in purgatory, yet because Halloween is a popular associated with supernatural, it is often believed to have strong pagan roots that were never eliminated by the holiday's subsequent Christianization. And so people like, sure, original Halloween had some connection to death, but it was in honor of death. Like, I'll explain that more in a second. But for some reason, we were kind of like, oh, death. And something supernatural because death. Therefore, it must be pagan because Christian has no supernatural anything in it. Never mind the fact there is supernatural on literally every single page. Anyways, as Caleb noted with Ronald Hutton, which is probably the leading scholar on this, at least in work, probably not in popularity, but in the works, like his book, I'll put in the description. I'm blanking all of my titles right now. Samhain, 1st November, was the major festival which marked the opening of winter in early medieval Ireland. Lisa Morton states, surprisingly little is known of them since they kept no written records, referring to the Celts. Our knowledge of Ireland's Celts is based largely on orally transmitted lore, much of which was recorded by Christian monks of the first millennium, and scattered archaeological evidence. We have this much on the Celts. And a lot of the things we've been saying about the Celts, we act like we have this much. We don't have it. A lot of it is just, unfortunately, as scholars will admit in some of their different works, they'll blame other scholars because either some just misunderstood text that they didn't disprove later, or it was from the fact that they just accepted something that was stated and never fact-checked them. And it's kind of like today. So like if you Google searched Origins of Halloween, it'll tell you Pagan Roots Samhain. Why? Because Google AI is basically doing Control F of all the public websites that it can get access to, but it can't read PDFs and those things because you have to download those. So it doesn't know those other things. But if you get more specific, like etymology of Samhain or etymology of Halloween, I just noticed that it will sometimes go against the statement that Halloween is pagan in origin, because now it's searching for something very specific. It's basically, Google AI is basically the largest control F you can do on the internet. That's really all it is. And so we got to stop giving it so much extra credit, because if you put in like literally anything, it's going to find you the answer on that as if that is the truth, because someone or a certain amount of people put it in, and it's going to collect the most used or most looked up reference to that. Just a quick statement about that. To quote Morton again, Samhain features frequently in Celtic lore. In practical terms, it was the end of summer and so the beginning of winter. Crops were gathered and livestock were brought in from the fields. Pigs and cattle were slaughtered with only a small number kept from breeding stock. And he goes on about like the different practices they would do in preparation for the winter and how they would celebrate and all the other things, and that there were different dates for how they would handle things. Again, Morton's book is great on this. My two biggest recommendations would be Morton and Hutton's books, because they are super detailed, but also Morton's is the most short. So if you want to like get a quick read, that's good. If you want a good in-depth read, you go to Hutton. I have a lot of notes, but I'm not gonna bore Caleb to death with all my notes. So let's just first off what Samhain even is. Samhain is not a religion of death. There might be some kind of
Really Yappy Man, we actually talked about this a little earlier in the stream. If you weren't around for it, that's fine. I'll just quickly brush over it. Firstly, Anton LaVey worships the father of lies. So why should we really believe him on anything? And why should we listen to him on anything? But more importantly, so what? Right?
Secondly, no source.
What power does Anton LaVey have over us as Christians? And why can we not use something that he intends for evil to do good? Right. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier in the stream. I'd recommend you go back and watch that if you want to hear a more in-depth explanation. But that's a good question. It's a good point, and it's certainly worth talking about, which we did. So I would go look at that.
Also, there's no source for that quote, so it's hard to really know if he actually ever said it.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the quote that
I have a half screen right now, so I could not see what was on the screen.
I can put it back up for us there.
I only can see half. It
says Anton LaVey included Halloween in the Satanic Bible as one of the most important holidays for Satanists. Which, even if true, so what? Right? They're trying to steal that from Christianity.
Which
let's not let them. Right, trying to. Let's not let them. Let's take it back. Let's claim it and say, no, this is a Christian holiday. This is a Christian celebration. We're going to use this event to go out and spread the gospel. So we talked about that earlier. You can go back and watch that if you'd like. It's a little bit more of a collected thought at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Josh.
No, you're good. Quote Nicholas Rogers one more time just to kind of land. I'm going to quote Nicholas Rogers and Jacqueline Simpson just to land the point that Samhain is not a death holiday. In Nicholas Rogers, in fact, there is no hard evidence that Samhain was specifically devoted to the dead or to ancestor worship, despite claims to the contrary by some American folklorists, some of whom have presumed that the feast was devoted to Samhain, god of the dead. And then Jacqueline Simpson, Halloween, 31st October, the eve of a major Catholic festival, All Saints, and then assigned to this date in the 8th century. Next comes All Souls, instituted in 1000 AD as a day to pray for the dead in England since the 19th century and increasingly in the 20th century. It has acquired a reputation as a night on which ghosts, witches, and fairies are especially active. Why this should be is debatable. So scholars are saying that there is a great reason to debate on this question of its actual origins for Halloween. Now, sure, there is potential that people who did Samhain in Celtic believed that maybe something supernatural might have happened or could have happened. But it wasn't of practice in regards to sacrifices. It wasn't in regards to worship. It was like maybe supernatural things might get closer, specifically something about fairies. Fairies come down. There's some who speculate that maybe something like they believe they were closer to their people who were in the dead, but nothing about worshiping the dead, nothing about giving sacrifice to Samhain as a god of the dead who isn't a god of the dead. There's even debate over whether he's a god in general. There's some who say, yeah, maybe, and some are like, his folklores don't really seem to dictate that he is a god. So there's that too. Whether or not Samhain was even a god or just a character in a folklore. So that's a problem. If you have four gods you're that are already in your religion for death, and none of them are associated with Samhain, it's probably not about death then. Anyways, if you want to see my notes of quotes, I can send them to you. Or if you rather just know what books they are, I'll put those in the description sometime tonight or tomorrow, and when this finalizes his upload. But let's move on to what Halloween etymologically actually is, which is the eve of All Saints, which stems again. So All Saints Day, to quote the Catholic Encyclopedia, which I thought would be helpful considering that it was after a pope was already established. It'd be helpful to know what they actually did with it. So it's the vigil of this feast is popularly called Halloween. Solemnity celebrated on the 1st of November. It is instituted to honor all the saints, known and unknown. So just that first statement there. It is a day to remember those who have passed on, specifically saints, because at least in Rome, what happened was, Caleb, you're going to have to probably correct my pronunciation because I can't think of any way that's not funny to say this. So I'm just going to say as funny as possible, and then you can correct it. Bonyface, I know it's not his actual name, Pope, just to annoy Caleb. I forgot earlier.
Boniface.
I thought so. I just didn't want to be wrong. Pope Boniface. You're welcome. Pope Boniface, at least in Rome, established All Saints' Day by taking over the Roman pantheon, and we're not talking about the gods pantheon, the temple, the pantheon, and they syncretized that, which means they took it and they repurposed it for Christians. And so that was something they did. So for the Roman region of All Saints' Day, when they did it on May 31st, it was after they, oh, you illiterate turd, thank you. They took the pantheon and they turned it for a Christian purpose. They took something pagan and turned it for good. But what they ended up doing with that was they used it as a dedication to past saints and Mary as a way to just to remember those who were, specifically those who were martyred by pagan emperors. So that was the Roman region. But again, you have All Saints where they're remembering people who have passed on, also after Pascha and after Pentecost. It wasn't until Pope Gregory, and we don't really know why. Some speculate maybe it was to Christianize Samhain, because that's after Ireland has started to have more interaction with Christianity. And maybe they're taking that day and they're now dedicating it to the Lord, which was already a festival day, and now putting an actual religious practice behind it of Christianity. We can't really know what actually happened. We just know it did. It got moved to November 1st by Pope Gregory. And so Boniface establishes in Rome All Saints' Day on November 1st, which again is a day to remember those who have passed on and been martyred and that were known as saints. Later on, November 2nd was All Souls' Day, which was when they would be praying for those who are, if you're a Catholic and Orthodox, for those who are in purgatory. For Protestants, probably not going to argue that. So you actually see in church history that when Protestants start taking over more of the West and going into the Americas, they reject the idea of All Souls Day. Some of them keep All Saints Day-ish, but they reject All Souls Day because they don't hold the doctrine of purgatory. But they would have, at least in Europe, one thing they did was to teach their kids to, pray for people. They went around with something called All Souls cakes, and they were rewarded with these cakes if they prayed for the people that were passed on in purgatory. And so it was their way of saying, go around the neighboring town and pray for people. And you got rewarded. So that was like the European origin of trick-or-treat. It's not the full origin of trick-or-treat. But there was a fear by some Irish Christians that, if you have a day for those in heaven and a day for those in purgatory, oh no, the people in hell, they gotta be upset about that. So much, much later, after All Saints' Day has already been established, much, much later. Caleb?
Sorry, I do get a kick out of that, the big concern that the people in hell, which provided hell, is empty right now. But the big concern of the people in hell is really that they aren't being mourned on earth. That's really what, those who are in eternal damnation are really concerned about.
But they were worried that they were going to come and cause mischief. So Irish Christians, not all Christians, Irish Christians, after All Saints' Day has been established, long after it's been established on November 1st, then on October 31st would dress up and bang pots and stuff to ward off spirits from causing mischief. And so, as inspiring philosophy calls it, there's no All Damned Day, but that was where that starts to come from. But Halloween, just etymologically, means All Hallows Eve, is the night before All Saints' Day, a day where they would remember those who were martyred and have passed on of Christians who were martyred by pagan emperors. That's the general history of All Saints' Day and Halloween. But then there's the fun one. You then have the fun thing with, hold on, we got a chat.
Yes, 1 Corinthians 10, 21 to 22.
I'll give a quick thing about trick or treat. Never mind, Cave's got it.
Says, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot share in the Lord's table and the table of demons. Or are we provoking the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? Completely agree.
Uh-huh. Nothing we said goes that direction.
Hang on. Let's go back there a little bit there, Yoppy Man. What does he say in the few verses before that? Look at the people of Israel. Do not those who eat sacrifices participate in what is food and what is offered on the altar? What am I saying then? That food offered to idols is anything, or that an idol is anything? No. But I do say what they sacrifice to demons, not to God. I do not want you to participate with demons. It's the action of the sacrifice that matters. It's not the taking of the food. Right? That's exactly what Paul says a couple verses beforehand. You can't just rip a verse out of context like that, dude. You have to read it in context. You have to read it with the understanding that Paul is talking about there, which is the action of the sacrifice is what matters. Right? Don't have any part of the action. Right? Just as Paul says in Romans 14, which we talked about earlier in the stream, the action is what matters. You can eat meat sacrificed to idols. It has no power over you. So we completely agree. We shouldn't have anything to do with demons. Don't worry, we are not going to sacrifice anything to demons. My child in a ladybug costume is not going to go out and sacrifice anyone to a demon.
Amen.
So please do not rip scripture out of context. Please read it in its full context. And please, again, hear us out. Right? Go back to the beginning of the live stream, because the points that you're making are points that we've already addressed. So please go back. It's worth talking about. I'm glad you brought it up. But please go back and actually hear us out before you point out things like this, because not only was it answered in the stream already, but it was out of context, and I'm sorry, but that's something you should know better about. Anyways, trick-or-treating.
Quick other thing. All Saints' Day in earliest dating, if I remember correctly, was more Germanic towards the Alps. Not in the Celtics. Two different regions. Yes, you have integration, you have like all those things, but also one's here, one's here. They're different locations. So it wasn't like it was born here. It was already a thing, and then they brought it here and then established a dating. Okay, so that was just a quick thing. I want to iterate that because, again, we have 3 different dates for the original All Saints' Day. Again, Pashka, Pentecost, May 31st. And even if you May 31st, you can make an argument for that one in regards to maybe it taking over a pagan holiday that was related to death. But still, you have 2 other dates that were done by other regions of the churches that were not associated with that. It's just that the Rome one is the most popular because you have Rome taking over the Pantheon and making it their church instead of being a temple for pagans. That's going to be the most popular one. You can read that in like many encyclopedias and church history. Is not going to be your Book of the Popes. It's going to be in Bede. and there was someone else like blanking on right now. That was the one I read earlier today. I didn't have access to this laptop with my notes on it because I don't know the Wi-Fi password at my job, and my computer already has the Wi-Fi there. Anyways, but trick or treat, we'll go there quickly, and then again, American practice is a different story. We'll get there in a second. Trick or treat. There's like 3 different origins this comes from. I already mentioned one with All Souls Day and Souls Cake. That's part of it. There's also Guy Fawkes Day, of which, if you want to know about by Guy Fawkes, then go check out those Guy Fawkes. Caleb, correction. Not everyone celebrates Halloween. Did you ever say that?
Did. Never said they did. As Josh said many times, if you have a personal conviction to not do it, that's fine. But you don't have to force that personal conviction onto everyone. I never said that every single human being celebrates Halloween. I might have said everyone who celebrates Halloween, or I might have been talking generally about the broader culture and saying that, everyone celebrates Halloween, right? Not saying that literally every single person celebrates Halloween, but rather the general everyone, which is the general public, which then provides us the opportunity to go out and share the gospel with them.
And by the way, his name is a spooky scare skeleton.
I'm less concerned about that.
I was just trying to keep it light. So no, Chris. Okay, hold on.
No, they're not. Not
if
even
you want
close.
So
not even close.
I've done a video.
Multiple videos on this subject.
We have a video. Caleb's first video is actually him and I talk about how Christmas is not pagan in origin. We've done together. Easter, I've also done a video that shows it's not pagan in origin. We will do another Christmas video because I want to. And I want to do like a more condensed version because we have a long one. And maybe we'll do a stream for it too. Or maybe we'll do a stream talking about some other stuff. Easter, I plan on just like saying, yo, go watch my video. I'm not making another one of those because I already made my quick project on that. I'm not making a quick project for Halloween because IP has already done that. And I don't feel like taking over his thing because he's far better at it than I am. And I have more problems with Easter and Christmas being called pagan than Halloween. Anyways. So, what was I saying? Trick or treat. So there's different backgrounds for it, and if there's any more comments to come in, we'll address those towards the end of this little segment. First one I mentioned, All Souls Day. In certain regions, they would do All Souls cakes, and they would go and teach their kids to go pray for other people. And then when they get those cakes, when they pray for those things, the kids would get those cakes, or they bring those cakes to the people. Another thing we do is Guy Fawkes Day. Guy Fawkes, if you want to know about him, go search that. That became a day of pranks because of what Guy Fawkes did try to do with the church and with the government because he had issues.
The fact that they took pranks from, attempting to blow up Parliament.
I know. That's not the biggest one. That's just like one of the ones like in the more European-ish.
Yeah.
Because of his attack. But they took that.
The 5th of November.
But it was also, that one is very tightly connected to what is more commonly known as Mischief Night, which is when kids would go out on different dates. One of them was October 31st, and they would basically do pranks, but it was very much vandalizing the area. And so in their efforts to ward off from these absurd pranks and from vandalizations and from all the other things, what they did was they started to provide incentives to not do that. Candy. And we're like, hey, maybe don't do this. Which is why we get the idea of trick or treat. You're tricking someone or you're getting the treat for it. So it's almost like a threat. Instead of a trick or treat, it's like, give me a treat or I'm going to vandalize your house. And then companies commercialized it. They hopped on board for this immediately because it was like a go to make money. I'm like, how can you not make money off this?
I do find it funny that sometimes the treats don't work though.
Oh, I know. Especially if you offer a kid a toothbrush, you better believe you're gonna get TP'd. Dude,
that's on you.
You're getting TP'd. The kid's expecting candy. So hard. If you want to provide a toothbrush with the candy, I'm okay with that. But if you're just doing a toothbrush, you're screwed.
If you provide my 2-year-old, with just a toothbrush, I will TP your house.
But that's where we get the basis of Trick or Treat is from that. It's from All Souls Day cakes and from Mischief Night and Guy Fawkes Night all being kind of clumped together. Because, again, Mischief Night and Guy Fawkes Day sometimes lined up on October 31st for certain regions. Yorkville especially was heavy with Mischief Night, and then it became the custom to do Trick or Treat that night. And when you come to the idea of them coming over to the Americas, where it's more Protestant, they're, of course, rejecting some of the more Catholic holidays. So they're bringing like some of those Christian backgrounds, but then also some folklore from like Europe, and this just all getting mixed together, and that's how you get American Halloween. But even then, it's not pagan, but it's after like strong commercialization that we start getting more of the idea of like the death we think about, because it did have an association with death, but it was in the idea of honoring the dead, remembering those who have passed on because they were martyred for the faith. But then it became this idea of like, hey, we went from remembering the dead to celebrating death to death and sex. But also in the mix of it was this
interconnected. It's all
but also this very innocent children just going out, dressed in costumes, having fun. Again, are there wicked and vile things that happen on Halloween? Of course there are. I'm not going to deny that. Neo-paganism is trying to capitalize on that. However, it's because we let them.
Let me also point out, January 1st is the deadliest day of the year. I don't see anybody protesting New Year's.
But it culturally speaking, it has this innocent, your kid's getting to dress up and make believe with his friends that he is this superhero or she is this princess. It's, like, your kids can do that whenever. Like, I'm not saying you only can do it on October 31st. Like, your kids can do it. But it's like the idea, like, there's a cultural day where they all get to do that, and it's the same day they all get to do it. It's like your kids and their friends. I remember my friends and I, we dressed up as different clone troopers from the Clone Wars. We had Rex and Cody. Yeah. One of my other friends was also Rex, and then I was Cody, and the other one, I loved Cody at the time before I knew that he betrayed Obi-Wan in Episode 3, because I didn't make that connection yet, and I was really mad about it. And then I switched to Team Rex and Team Delta Squad. But like, it was the idea, like, yes, my friends and I dressed up and did other things at times, like we wanted to make believe and have fun. But there was a day where like we all just had it in our schedule to do it together. And it was this innocent little day, and then we went out and got candy. We had fun. It was just this cultural day of fun, right? And that really is what Halloween, in my opinion, should be, at the very least, is this cultural day for kids to just go have fun and make believe. Now, of course, I'm not saying you only can do it on that day. If you're only let your kid do it that day, I'm sorry, you're failing as a parent, because you're not letting your kid and exercise their ability to have imagination.
Right, and that's something that I wanted to talk about quickly. If my child goes out on October 30th, rather, dressed as a ladybug looking for candy, she's not doing anything pagan then. But if she does it one day later, the exact same thing, literally verbatim same thing, suddenly she's now a pagan.
You mean October?
Yeah, that's what
You said November.
I think I said November initially and then corrected to October 30th.
Oh, and I might have not heard that then.
But yeah, so if she goes out and does it on October 30th, and she goes up to the neighbor's door and she rings the doorbell and she says trick or treat, she'll get a really weird look.
Well, so you're gonna be like, oh, this is a cute kid.
Yeah, okay, it's a cute kid, 2-year-old, and doesn't know any better. Maybe the parents want to do it, when there's not going to be 100,000 people out on the street.
Halloween leftovers.
Exactly. Well,
or pre-overs.
Yes. Yeah. That
Halloween appetizer.
There you go. Yeah, Halloween appetizer. But then somehow her doing it the very next day, literally the same thing, goes up, rings the doorbell, says trick or treat in her ladybug costume. That's now pagan. That now belongs to the demonic. Why? Right. Because you are willing to surrender the day to the demons. Every day belongs to the Lord.
And again, I want to wrap this, like, there's more that can be said on that holiday. I did a quick brush run through. If you want a good, more detailed explanation, one, go check the resources I put in the description later. They should be up at the latest by tomorrow. Another one I'll put in the description is go check out Inspiring Philosophy's video. It's very good. Or check out his live stream from last year where he's reacting to Isaiah Saldivar. I mentioned that one not because of his reaction, but because he provides other scholarly quotations that he didn't provide in the first one, and he's talking with a Catholic, so person who has it ingrained in their church calendar to do All Saints Day. So there's going to be good conversation there, and I think that guy's also an educator. He's taught Greek for a couple years and some other stuff. I'm not sure where, but it's really cool. But to tie it back, okay, if your argument is that I'm not going to celebrate Halloween because it's pagan, my first point is historically it's not really true. Does Halloween have a lot of melting pot moments and is mixing around things? Yes, but its origin, especially by etymology, it's not pagan etymologically, and it's not pagan in its original sense. Because we don't have any primary sources that prove it in the idea that these things happened on Samhain, like death rituals, or the idea that Christians also did death rituals or whatever. Now, Christians have done synchronization where they would take something and then they were also smart enough to remove things that were religiously problematic and keep the things that were culturally appropriate.
Right, which is Paul's point in 1 Corinthians 10.
Right, they're aware of how to do that. They weren't stupid.
Right.
Not saying anyone's saying they're stupid, but they weren't. We got to give ancient people more credit than we tend to.
Oh yeah, no, we treat them like they're fully incompetent.
Yeah.
For no reason.
But it's not really there. There's not a primary source that shows that, and old scholarship kind of maybe argue that because they kind of accepted some stuff, but then scholarship more recently, as we've done some more archaeological digs, is saying this guy is not a true historian because this work sucks, or this is bad, or these things are false, and they'll lay that out. You gotta be aware of the academic language, though, because I'm not going to lie. When I first read Pantheon, I forgot about the Roman temple, and I was thinking about, all the deities. I was like, wait, that's kind of weird. And I was like, oh, wait, the Roman Pantheon, as in the temple. Hence why the next sentence said the temple. I was like, I didn't stop. It was like it was just thoughts that happened as I was reading, and then I read the next sentence. So I was like, stupid. But is Halloween a melting pot, especially in the Americas? Yes. Does it have a blurry history post its origin? Yes. Its origin, though, is not what we say it is popularly. But even if it was or isn't, let's ignore origins for a second. I think the bigger problem people have with Halloween is, again, not so much the origins, but they blame it on origins. But it's really of the customs of today, and we blame the customs today on origins. And I would say that the reason that has become that way is because we allow neo-paganism and other things, and skepticism, and not just skepticism, but mythicism. I was thinking more of conspiracy theory. Thank you, brain. Conspiracy theory, developing these things and saying, okay, because it has this death connection, it must be pagan. Because Christians never honored the dead, never remembered the dead, never celebrated the idea of dying because they're going to be with the Lord. Oh, wait, to live as Christ, to die as gain, Paul. We assume that, and if it's because supernatural, oh, wait, Christianity also has supernatural things to it. But we act like because Christianity can't be supernatural and it can't be about death, even though the whole focus is Jesus died and rose, that it must be pagan. Because anything with death and supernatural cannot be Christian. And that's because we allow commercialization, like with the things like with Michael Myers' movies Halloween, which I can't watch those. I've watched one, and I was like, I did not like that.
No, not a. Is it more of a you're grossed out or you're creeped out?
Let's go with this. I've seen it and Halloween were my two recent horror movies. I don't really watch them. I just kind of watched them once because a couple of us got together. I laughed at, so it was so stupidly obvious how fake it was.
Yes, that is Mexico.
I think that's a different day, isn't it? It's a different.
The Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Dia de los Muertos. I believe it is the day following Halloween,
something like that. But yes, Halloween,
Mexico.
Halloween, because of how realistic the idea of a serial killer being on the loose and how gory it was, freaked my brain out. Because the idea of an alien clown, not likely. It was like, okay, this is just funny. It's just not scary. It's whatever.
Sure.
the idea of a psychopathic serial killer on the loose was like, lock all the doors. We're not going outside at night. I'm not getting my head beaten. No, thank you.
See, that stuff never really bothered me. Halloween in itself is actually a very interesting movie, and the message that it's putting out, and it tries to make a very secular message and accidentally ends up making a Christian one. So perhaps a conversation for another time. But there are a lot of horror movies like that where it's actually a Christian message,
whether they meant to or not.
Whether they meant it to or not, and that's because truth always gets through. Truth always pervades.
But here's the other thing too. There's things like the Joker that I'm not freaked out by that. And he's a realistic character. They have a psychotic killer. I'm not sure why my brain was able to disassociate Joker and Michael Myers as when they're in principle, they're not totally different.
They are, but they aren't, right? Because Joker, the point of Michael Myers is to be the incarnation of evil and the incarnation of a loss of innocence, and that's why you see so many teens having sex throughout the movie is because this idea of loss of innocence, right? And why doesn't oh my goodness, the character just escaped my mind. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
I cannot remember. Yes. I just blanked hard on her character's name. But why her character is a virgin and doesn't go and sleep around, right? Michael is supposed to represent that loss of innocence for her. Joker's not quite the same. In that
He's
sense.
still an embodiment of evil and chaos, but just in a different way.
Sure.
Especially more recent iterations.
True. But also, because Joker in it is also kind of a little bit larger than life, right? Like he's a clown. Sure. He's got, a whole bunch of goofy little gadgets that he uses that aren't really that realistic.
Oh,
and his plans...
old Joker, new Joker, not so much.
Right, but we grew up with old Joker.
Right.
Michael Myers, always and forever, the only weapon he uses is a common kitchen knife.
Or his bare hands. He's John Wick, but scary.
I'd argue, actually, John Wick is a little bit scarier, but that's neither here nor there.
No. Sorry, let's go with this. John Wick, if you're not on John Wick's bad side, he's a cool dude.
This is true.
If you're on Michael Myers, just doesn't care.
This is
John Wick,
is on Michael Myers' bad
if you cross John Wick, you're screwed. But no, anyways. In principle, has things been turned this really dark route with Halloween today? Sure, you have that. You have people who do satanic things on Halloween. You have people who do very immoral things on Halloween. But also, that it's not everyone. In fact, our area, I would argue, is very much focused on the cultural norm of kids dress up, they go collect candy. You just kind of see that everywhere. They barely do the whole scary stuff as much. They kind of do more. No, I don't think John Wick would be scared either.
Probably not. No, probably not.
I'm saying that I wouldn't be scared of John Wick because I know I would be on the good side of John Wick. So I know that he would be able to. He'd be like, I'm not gonna be scared of Batman because I'm not gonna get Batman's bad side.
Right. Yeah. Just don't hurt any dogs and you'll be fine.
Look. Wick. I have puppy.
So you're gonna barter with Blossom for your life?
Hi. Puppy licks. Anyways, but are there?
Our viewership skyrocketed. No, I'm kidding.
It'd be funny if it did. But you do have awful things that happen on Halloween, but it doesn't mean that they're awful things that happen every single day though. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be cautious of Halloween because every other day is the same. I'm saying we can't let that be a thing that makes us lock up in our houses and hide. If you have a conviction not to participate in something, don't participate that. I'm not going to say go do that. I can't say that. That'd be a sin for me to say that. But I'm also not going to say lock up your doors and hide and shut yourself off from the community. Because we complain as Christians about how we're not taking the community and the community's being taken away from us. But it was because we gave up the community.
Right.
And we need to be very aware that if you don't want to do traditional Halloween, I would argue either one, do a different kind of celebration, or two, if you want to put a safer place for kids to do trick-or-treating that's not on the neighborhood, if you're concerned about the neighborhood for whatever reason, I'm not saying that sarcastic, if you have a genuine reason to be concerned about the neighborhood, do a trick-or-treat or something like that, where you're like the church is so involved that it is not only a safe place for kids, but it is a gospel covered area of like people there who are facilitating it are all there to share the gospel in some way, shape, or form. And if you have no convictions about it, go out and do something in honor of the Lord with it. Just something to glorify him. Bringing tracts, praying for people, giving candy with tracts, something. Or do a different kind of celebration with people who maybe have strong convictions. Find a way to help them not feel locked up, because here's the thing, we should never isolate either. And my concern for those who maybe have a strong conviction, their immediate response is isolation, find a way to maybe get them involved with you in something that's not Halloween related, if that's their conviction.
Hold a worship service.
Oh, of course. There's so many things we could do. It doesn't have to be you go do Halloween celebration. There's so many things you could do. So again, this video is not to say, Christians, you must go do Halloween practices. It is to say, consider your reasons, understand that it's not really pagan in origin. And if you do have convictions, don't go against them, but find another way to glorify the Lord. Even if it is just within your house and your family, do something with your kids to glorify the Lord with them. If you have a conviction not to take your kids out. Or see if your church can get someone involved in something. Find something, because there's not a single day that Satan has more power than God. And I know it's not everyone has this conviction, but to act in fear of this day, to claim that you give up your identity because your kid dressed up, is just to give him that very reign that he's telling you that he wants, even though he still can't have it. But he's getting that over you because you're aligning yourself in fear to him in some way. You're not relying on the Lord. You're actually hiding as if he does have this power, which he doesn't have. And we got to be aware of that. We got to be very aware that there's not a single day that the Holy Spirit is weak. And the only reason that there is ever struggle in our life is because we have decided to not be in alignment with God. That is what sin is to be apart from God. I know it's not that's my Theo bros out there. Of course, I'm not saying that's the simple definition. I'm just for the point of the video. So find some way to be involved. Even if it's just with your family or for your neighbor or for your church, or if you have no strong convictions, go out. But also don't hold it against Caleb here, who wants to take his daughter out with his wife to celebrate something. To go get candy. Go get candy. There's nothing immoral about that.
The good news is my wife is really crunchy. So anything with like red 40 in it is all mine.
So do we have any other comments? I mean, Caleb, do you have any other thoughts and reflections, applications?
No, I think in the hour and a half we've been talking about this, we've pretty much gotten it.
Yeah. I don't think I can warrant. I mean, unless we have more comments come in, which I'm willing to go through. I'm happy to go through those. I'm not gonna make you guys stay longer for the video. I'll link the video and I'll tell you the timestamp to go to. I think. Wise Disciple channel, where he goes in like his thoughts on it. He takes a nice middle ground. IP is very much on the idea of like go do Halloween. At least in his videos, he kind of like that.
I think we have to go that far.
I don't know if it's actually his opinion, but I think he's just trying to work against the opposing view. But sometimes it comes off like it's the extreme other view. Not really extreme. Sorry, he's not the extreme other view, but it's like it can come off that way if you don't pay attention to his language. And then Ruslan is like middle ground, and then Wise Disciples middle ground. I'll argue I'm between middle ground and IP a little bit because I have no personal conviction, but I'm also not going to come against someone who does have a conviction. That'd be a sin
Right.
for me to do so.
I'm rather libertarian on the issue,
Yeah.
truthfully, which is just, you celebrate what you want to celebrate. I will have a good time with my family. I will honor God and do my best to put the gospel out there through all of my thoughts, words, and actions. And on the plus side, I get Snickers for doing it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. If you guys have any other chat stuff you want to bring in, real quick before we close out, feel free to. But yeah, just brief summary again. Halloween, not pagan in origin. It has had some developments in various other ways, and as a long development, but it's not originally in pagan descent. In fact, it's hard to really narrow down the exact dating of the original stuff because either there's multiple dates or there's no primary source that gives an actual date. Modern customs sure are a little bit different than today, unless you're in the Catholic or Orthodox regions of Christianity. But if your concern is about modern day practices, I respect and understand those concerns. I would ask you to be discernful and not just go on a whim. Make sure you're discernful about the conviction that's being placed on your heart and to make sure you understand it and to know that it's a conviction for you, not an objective standard for all Christians. And that if you do have convictions about certain things, don't participate in what you're convicted about, but still engage in some way to glorify the Lord as you would every day, or even emphasize it more today because of your convictions and wanting to stray away from certain things. I hope that's a good summary.
I would say so.
Beautiful. Let's see. Is there anything else in the chat? I haven't really gone through the chat. I wonder, is it okay? Let's see.
I've been putting all the messages on screen.
See, Chaos, where he was laughing at you, and then hey, Josh is back. Yeah, I am. I should have made that a little more fun. Wait, what? Yeah, I'm still not sure what the wait what was about. I know Star Wars and James Bond and Pokemon. Not sure on Transformers. That broke my heart a little bit. Let's see. Yappy Man with Anton LaVey. 1 Corinthians. Incorrect on Christmas and Easter. We have videos on that.
Yes, please go check those out.
If you don't trust me, go. And if you don't want to trust inspiring philosophy, because he's not a historian either, go look at Wes Huff, because he is a historian, and watch his videos, because he will tell you they're not pagan. And he is a historian, and he is a Christian. Oh, here's another thing, too. The resource I'm going to provide in the description for Halloween, Hutton, for instance, was tasked in many of his works to find pagan things about Halloween. And his work ultimately was, Halloween is not pagan in origin. Like he said, I sought for it because that's what I was tasked to do, that's what I was told to do, and I didn't find it. The guy you mentioned, Josh,
Yes.
he was executed for his involvement in the gunpowder plot.
Guy
Yes.
Fawkes was executed, yes.
Yes, he was.
What a prank. It was just a prank, bro.
When we get to that point in church history, we have fun explaining Guy Fawkes.
I was gonna say that is the original. It was just a prank, bro.
That's going to be an interesting. We have a long ways till we have to consider that for a church history video. But
Yeah.
that might be a video at some point discussing Guy Fawkes. Maybe we should just bypass everything and just get there because we'd be one of the first to do it in our circles.
It would be good if it came out on November 5th. That's all you. If you want to do that one, that's all you.
I guess I'm doing. Hold on. What's our calendar?
Actually, I think the 5th might be a Friday.
The 5th is a Wednesday.
Oh, it's a Wednesday. Really?
It's next Wednesday.
Okay, so you got a week.
I mean, here's the thing. So let's see. I lost you. Where are you? Here you are. Nope, that's still not you. Where is real you? There you are. Well, I am a historian here. What was I gonna say? Next, so we canceled class this week. So I was gonna have I think Image of God Part 2 is next week. I could do a double video that week. I'm okay with that.
You sure?
Yeah, because the class is already recorded, and I was gonna do it for the week after, so you couldn't be there. But we had 2 segments that we did. One's much shorter than the other, and so I'm taking the second segment and making that the class for the following week, since we are taking this week off.
Gotcha.
But I could, or what I could do. I'll pray on it and think about it. I will do Guy Fawkes Day, or Guy Fawkes. So either I will do Guy Fawkes and Image of God Part 2. Either I will do Image of God and Guy Fawkes next Wednesday, or I'll do both Images of God videos the week after together as 2 separate ones, and then Guy Fawkes number 5th. I might err on the side of just doing both on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, because I already have one set to premiere or set in the file. Yeah. I don't feel like taking it and rescheduling it because I'm that lazy of pushing 3 buttons. If I'm going to research all these other things, I have more buttons to push. 3 more buttons is not on my wish list of things to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we'll do that because we think November. I think I have 3 council videos I have to do.
Yes,
November,
you do, my friend.
Which will be Constantinople, Jerusalem. Probably should be Chalcedon since that's the follow-up of Ephesus. Mm-hmm. Or I could do the mini Ephesus. I don't really want to. It's not as exciting. Not as fun.
Chalcedon, I think, will grab eyes, grab headlines.
Channel grabbing headlines.
A man can dream.
A man can dream. Caleb has a dream.
I have a dream.
Yeah.
That one day, all headlines. That's as far as I wish to take that parody.
But yeah, and then you're doing 2 heresies next month, I guess.
I'm doing 2 videos on heresies. Let's phrase it that way.
I like my phrasing better. It makes you look sketchy. It makes you look sketchy. I like that idea better. Last week it made me look like a heretic when we were talking about waffles.
I'm sorry, you committed waffle Unitarianism. I don't know what you want from me.
Hold on. I had another thought. You could potentially argue that each square is polytheism, and therefore a waffle is the
Thank you all very much for joining us. We really appreciate you tuning into this live stream where we talked about Halloween, its cultural impact, its origins, and everything in between. If you do have any questions for us, please leave them in the comments below as Josh pulls up Bentley here. And while you're down there, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. You know, it would greatly help us out, and it would make that subscribe button turn from red to black. And black is a scary color, which is perfect for this season.
Why did you phrase it like that? That's a terrible way to phrase it.
Racially ambiguous comments aside, thank you all so very much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. And Lord willing, we will see you in the next one.